Everyone. Okay, so if you can hear me if you're coming to the live now and you can hear me, just comment audio, just comment yes that you can hear me because sorry I'm slightly late. I said 12 o'clock. I held back there. Okay, so the whole point of this training really today was to talk about practice. Now, as you know, I'm going through the Get Playing Guitar, one of the polls from, I think it's the end of April. Just going through the topics. So we've done rhythm playing and we've done chord changing, but practice, this is probably one of the most important things and the biggest thing obviously that you need to do on guitar or ukulele, because you know have a ukulele group as well, is the practice. So we're going to jump straight in. I've got some points here. You can grab this document afterwards. I'll give you some tips at the end on how to get that. So we're going to run through it here. I've just edited it slightly to finish it off, but it's pretty much done. So I'm just going to share the screen and walk you through this document here. Give me 2 seconds. This one is in again. Okay. Now, right. So I'll make this slightly bigger so you can see it a bit better. Okay, slightly bigger again, maybe. Let me see. Just view the one page at a time. Tell you what we'll do is make it 200%. That's better. Okay, so practice and the importance of practice, right? Obviously now, everybody, what I would say at the start is everybody is living different lives. Some people are really busy, some people are working. So there's certain things that you could be doing in your practice to really sort of bring your progress on a lot better. So what I thought I would do is sort of summarize that. Now, what I am going to do here is I'm going to be going through this practice pyramid. If you're new to the group and you haven't got this, comment pyramid below this training and I'll send one over. But what I wanted to do was take this pyramid out. This is also inside the Get Playing Accelerator program. But what I wanted to do was break it down a bit and make it a bit more sort of usable and a bit more relevant to your situation right now, because everybody is in different situations with life and working and things. Okay, so we'll run through it. So I kind of stress how important this is as a beginner. There's a belief that practice makes perfect, right? It's not actually true. It's an old saying. It's a bit of a myth because practice makes permanent, not perfect. Because if you're practicing the wrong things and reinforcing bad habits, it's not going to perfect anything. You're actually going over the same old ground. Maybe you're going over, it could even be that you're just sort of a bit procrastinating a bit and maybe going over the same few chords and thinking, oh, I'm not really in the mood for learning anything new. I'll just play what I used to do. I mean, that's not really going to get you very far in the long run, to be honest. So you'll see this, and you'll probably see this in other on YouTube and maybe in other Facebook groups. I hear other beginners advising just practice, it'll all come together. I mean, that's crazy and it's rubbish, because I hear that all the time and I see other beginners and learners telling other beginners and learners that that's the situation, but they haven't a clue what these people they're advising are actually working on. So how can they possibly advise them just practice and practice? It's sort of, you're really kidding yourself. You need to know what to practice and how to practice in order to make proper progress. So as I said there previously, not if you're working on bad habits that are holding you back, making things more difficult. That can be anything from laying the wrong fingers down or in the wrong order. If you're playing, for example, you're changing chords and you're laying down your fingers 1, 2, 3 or 1, 2, 3. I see a lot of people would do G like that or D. Even see the guy years ago when I used to teach, and I wasn't long fixing that, where he played his D like that, which was crazy. You know, see, you certain chords you are going to need last 3 fingers, but probably for E and A, all that stuff would come up later. But that's a really bad habit to get into. So you want to always be laying your chords down 1, 2, 3 as much as you can. So simple things like that, or playing a scale and maybe playing the wrong fingers the next time you do it, that kind of thing. There's no consistency there, and everything on guitar has to be consistent, and you have to sort of build on things in a step-by-step way. Okay. So one of the things I do as it says here, and practice makes permanent. If you practice the wrong way or the wrong things, those habits will become permanent and very hard to break. Very, very important. It's very hard to break bad habits with anything in life. If you're eating the wrong things and you're putting on weight, very hard to get out of that unless somebody advises you what you should be eating, how much exercise to get, or what exercise works best. It's the same with guitar. Why people think that they can go on and learn guitar for free and it'll all work out in the end, it just amazes me, because it's the same as anything else in life. You need some help sometimes. You need some guidance to take you on the right path, at least, at the very, very least. Now, so one of the things I do with my students, I teach them to practice everything slowly. So where this comes up is if you're really wanting to play a song that's quite fast, and the patience thing kicks in here. So if you're thinking, oh, right, I really want to play that song, like I did when I was learning, I was very much, oh, listen to that, that sounds cool. And then you think, hang on, but am I at that stage yet? Being honest with myself, am I really there right now? If I jump in and play this fast, what's going to happen? Guarantee you're going to get frustrated. So by slowing everything down, you just chill everything out and think, it gives you the chance to focus on what you're doing, whatever's happening with your hands and your chords and your scales and whatever, one thing at a time. Very, very important. Watch what your fingers are doing when you're laying down chords, or you're playing scales, or your right hand when you're doing finger picking. Take note of what's going on, because 90% of the time it's something that you're doing wrong that is holding everything up. And this all obviously comes into practice. So things like these points here, are you using the right fingers? As I said, there are chords. Are you laying them down in the right order? Are you thinking about finger grouping when you're doing a G, or say an A minor chord, for example? Are you thinking, all right, there's A minor? You know, this sort of thing that people seem to have. I've noticed recently, a lot of people I'm talking to, and maybe things have read, and you see people trying to make their chords. Oh, I haven't made my C chord yet. I'm thinking, but you don't need to make a C chord. You only need part of it. The right hand here's the engine that drives it all when it comes to rhythm. The left hand is just making it all sound nice. You need the engine going. You switch it on. You don't turn it off at all. The rhythm hand's the engine hand, as I've started to call it recently. It's true. You know, it really makes a difference. But playing slowly with all those things gives you time to focus on the above and a load more things. There's a lot more, but those three are important. You could probably have a whole A4 page on using the right fingers and stuff. So examples of when and how it helps when you're taking things slowly. When I'm teaching my students, they're taking things slowly. For example, when they're working on say a grade piece for rock school RGT, as you probably know, you might not know, I actually teach the guitar grades as well, right up to grade 8 and beyond. So there's a lot wrapped up in it, and all the things we were talking about all come into that, finger style and soloing and everything. So what I would do very often, they're given a backing track, they've got to play along this backing track. So it'd be like you playing along to your favorite song on YouTube. I would get the backing track, find out where they are right now, what speed they're comfortable with, slow the track down, and then we gradually work our way back up to getting up to speed with the track based on their progress every week. So they're not jumping in and feeling intimidated with this track that's maybe 120 beats per minute, and they're, oh, I can't do this, I can't do this. There's nothing worse than that, because they're not going to, all that's going to do is the overwhelm will take over their practice time instead of their playing taking over their practice time and their concentration, because overwhelm's a big thing. I'm going to talk about that later. See, likewise, if we're working on soloing, again, you don't jump in and try and do Thunderstruck by AC/DC when you've only started to learn the solo, because it's ridiculous, because you're not going to have the speed. As I said, there are some crazy 150 beats per minute backing track when all they do is feel intimidated and frustrated, because that's what it makes you feel like. Oh, I'm not getting this, I'm not getting this. And it's pretty clear why you wouldn't be getting it, because you've just jumped in far at the deep end, far too soon. So one thing I would say when you're practicing, if you're playing songs, if they're anyway upbeat, slower songs are probably better to start with, something nice and relaxed that you can enjoy better practicing, and you're going to probably get there with it a lot quicker than some upbeat thing, even should it be country or bluegrass, or, you know, it just depends on the genre you like playing. But definitely slowing everything down and just seeing what's going on and taking note of what's going on is part of this all. So you then can see what you maybe feel. Maybe you don't know what's wrong with your playing, but you can at least see and pinpoint this isn't happening. I can't get from my G to D. I can't get from G to C the way I'd like to. These kind of things. I can't get that scale. All those notes, my pinky finger's not going where I want it to. Fingers are drifting, going into a D chord. All these kind of things would crop up. So this is very important here. Now, let me just go in quickly just to Facebook again, just check. Yeah, very important here. So hello to everybody that's there at the minute. Thanks very much for joining me. Let me just go back to this document a minute. I have just hit something and I don't want to mess it up. Oh yeah. Remember, you only have to do it perfectly once to make it click. All right. So basically, if you get this down one time, that proves to you that you can do it again. And then you can do it again. And then the more times you do it, then you're one step closer to getting it and actually really getting there. So as it says here, once it does, your brain will recognize it as valid, and then you start speeding things up. Now, I'm not saying jumping into speeding things up slowly. What I recommend is, if you're really struggling with something, 5 beats per minute on the metronome, maximum 10 beats per minute on the metronome to bring things up that wee bit. Now, it doesn't sound like much, but you look back 2-3 weeks later and go, God, look how slow that was then. Because you've progressed. Now, this is where when people come into me for lessons, I see their progress that they can't see because they're with themselves, obviously, during the week working on this. But I'm sitting measuring everything and going, oh, I can see, right, I can definitely see improvement here, or that's what's holding them up, or whatever it is. So small jumps in the long run actually save you a lot of time, rather than thinking, oh, I'm really impatient, I have to get this done. Because I would generally be, to be honest with you, a pretty impatient person. When I was learning, I did jump in, and now I look back and go, that really was nuts trying to do that at that stage. That really was crazy. I should have left that for another month and did such and such, but sure, hindsight's a great thing. So you may or may not, if you're new to the group, by the way, very welcome, and I hope you're watching this training and I hope you get something out of it. And if you do need some help with your playing, do let me know. But if you're new to the group, you may not have got a copy of this practice pyramid. So if you want to comment pyramid after the training, I can send you one through. So as I said at the start, I wanted to go through this because it's already in the accelerator program. So the guys that are in there right now will have seen this maybe, or if they haven't, it'll be coming up soon. So this is kind of like a 5-step process to getting to the point where all that practice put together gets you to this place where you're playing your favorite music. Now, you'll notice there's a 3 steps here on the right hand side. So the foundation, this is part of building your foundation. Clean chords and chord changing. That's where the rhythm playing comes in. When we come onto the strumming and timing on step 2, where you're learning the essential skills, this is where you're training your rhythm hand, for example. As I mentioned earlier, the engine that keeps moving, that drives everything forward. In terms of strumming and timing and rhythm, definitely that rhythm hand cannot stop, regardless of what your ear is picking up on these chords. The left hand or the chord hand, fretting hand, always catches up in the end. And you've got to just believe that, because I'm on the other side and I know that's what happens. So you've got to trust that. The coordination, where you're focusing on both hands. So when I'm talking about slowing things down, you're looking at this and going, right, what is going on here? What's changed? Keeping a note. Is my G to D slower than my G to C? Why is that? Am I trying to make full chords? Or in fingerstyle, am I trying too difficult a pattern on the right hand side? I really love Dust in the Wind, or Every Breath You Take, or Simon and Garfunkel. I think, right, okay, maybe Simon and Garfunkel's a bit of a too difficult for me right now. Maybe I need to bring this back. If you get the main patterns down that are widely used, you can then tweak and adapt those to suit the songs that you want to do. Rather than, this is an important point, a lot of people, now I had I wouldn't say an argument, a slight disagreement with the guy online last week, nothing to do with the group, but he was arguing that free, going on YouTube and all that's better. I learned on YouTube and I can play 80 songs and I'm an intermediate. And I thought, well, that's great. You've done really well. But he was judging his progress by the amount of songs he could play and not by the skills he had. There's a big difference there. You might have 80 songs, but how much of those 80 songs, if you've taught yourself, are actually sounding good? If they're sounding good, brilliant, you've done fantastic. But if they're not, you need to look at it and go, well, what skills have I developed here? Because it's the skills that take you forward to get all the music that you want in the long run eventually. Whether that's soloing or your intentions are in 4 or 5 years you want to play jazz, whatever it is, if the skills aren't there, the rest of it's not going to follow. And it's as simple as that. You need to build these skills, get everything tight. Probably on this pyramid, the most important thing of everything is right in the middle, strumming and timing. What I would say is, I'll probably mention it down here. I think I'll go into it, but I'll go on down because it probably comes up. This is crucial. If the timing's off, forget everything else you're doing and fix it. Doesn't matter how important you think playing whatever song is, it's never going to sound good if the timing's not sorted out. And that's something that is absolutely essential. There's rhythm in soloing, there's rhythm in fingerstyle, there's rhythm in, obviously, in strumming, there's rhythm in chord changing. Everything in music is rhythm and timing. Everything else just fits in around that. So what's going on here? Basically, well, it's all about seeing what is relevant to you right now. As I said there, forget about that song that's been bugging you, whether it's the Eagles or whatever it is. Why is it bugging you? Could you be doing something that's making it, maybe that should be maybe taking it, maybe it's taking longer than you should. Don't worry, I'll fix these typos after this before you get a copy of this. A common problem that comes up for everyone is time. This is a big killer now. This is one of the killers of practice and the killers of progress. I'm going to talk about that later, but we all have busy lives, and I'm the same. I mean, I'm teaching Monday to Thursday, and also Saturday mornings, and teaching in the evenings. And of course, I've got the group, and I've got a family, and I've got everything else. And I'm trying to fit my own life in around all the online stuff and all that. So we all are pushed and pulled in different directions. So a good example that I'm going to talk later, but before we get into that, I'll mention this. If 15 minutes a day, watch 15 minutes less TV. One important thing that it seems really obvious, but a lot of people don't think of: keep your guitar somewhere that you can see it. Whether that's on a guitar stand in the kitchen, or in your bedroom, or in the living room. I know lots of students that keep their guitar, adults that would keep the guitar in the living room. So what's inclined to happen is, if you can see it with your eyes, to that old saying about sight out of mind, it's true. I'm in the room here a lot, and I might be waiting on something to upload or doing a video or whatever, and while I'm waiting on that, the guitar's sitting here, and I would grab it and do something because it's physically sitting here. I don't have to think about it because it's there. So it's thinking of simple adjustments like that. And 15 minutes a day mightn't sound like much, but 15 minutes is a lot. Count that up over a week. What, you got over an hour's practice a week by the time you get to the end of the week. So obviously, if you're working, and I'm going to talk about this later, if you're working long hours and maybe 10, 12-hour days, you're not probably going to get those 15 minutes, to be honest, in that day. But it's about mindset and working it in and thinking, well, where could I work it in? You know? So as I said there, keep the guitar out where you can see it and not tucked away. Sorry, I just want to make sure this isn't about Zoom here, because I want to make sure that somebody sent me a message and it's not. No, it's okay. I just thought maybe somebody was on. Let me just check Facebook again. That's okay. No, sorry. I just want to make sure that the audio or something is working. Sorry for lateness, was just a word. Okay. Okay, Steve. So glad you showed up, Steve. I hope you find this useful. Okay, so let me go back to the document again as we go through this. Right, we're going to run through these 5 things where I'm kind of breaking down the pyramid that you should have a copy of. If you haven't, as I say, ask me for this. That's what's involved in these 5 sections, right? So we'll talk a bit about practice time again later on, but those wee points of saying it works from the bottom up, and everything you do has a knock-on effect. Very important. Just before we get into this, I'm not going to ramble on forever, but it does have a knock-on effect. Every tiny bit of practice, if it's good quality practice you do, has a knock-on effect for the next thing you do. Clean chords, for example, right? We're going to get into this pyramid now. So before you go and jump into something like Hotel California or Stairway to Heaven, make sure you have your chords clean from the very outset. If you're sitting right now and you know that your C chord is buzzing, or you're getting fretboard buzz, or A minor's not happening, or you can't get a bar chord, you really have to be honest and say, right, there's no more kidding myself. Strip this back here. I'm going to fix this once and for all. Then you can move on, because I guarantee that'll save you time in the long run. So that's things, as I said, there are no string buzz. All notes are clear. You can pick down the chords string by string and hear every note. For example, as I say, chords like D minor, B minor, any of the bars could cause trouble. Any chord where you're stretching 3 frets, these kind of things. These are the things that I see happening every day, and these are the things I'm always working on to fix for people. If you find right now that what you can do with your chords are all sounding clean, right? Okay, well then we can move on. Next step, chord changing. This is a big one. Big problem for everybody. Same with me when I was learning, is chord changing, chord transitions. Nobody told me to keep the rhythm hand going when I was learning. So I did what everybody does. And I stopped and started. And I went. And that led to massive frustration for me. And I thought, I can get these chords, but I can't get this together. Why can I not get this together? And it really was as simple as simple rhythm on the right hand at a slow pace, obviously not flying in at a fast pace. Now, to give you an idea, 60 beats per minute is, let me bring this down, it's actually set there to 70, but 60 beats per minute is quite slow. So yeah, so see what I mean? You're not overwhelming yourself with, oh my god, this song is 120 beats per minute. That kind of thing that's just going to knock you completely off. So as I say here, use a metronome. You haven't got a metronome, there's loads of metronomes. A good one online would be Pro Metronome for Android. There's an Apple one called MT, which is good. You can slow it. These free apps usually have enough options on them for what you need at this stage. When you want to get into 12/8 timing and all, you probably need to buy the upgraded version. But for the free version, I use one on my phone's Android called Pro Metronome. I was using it yesterday in lessons. A few kids helping them with their timing. It's that kind of thing. Okay, so if you're way past, so if you're not an absolute beginner with chord changing, and you are further on, because everybody's at a different level depending on what they've covered and how they've approached guitar. So if you've covered more than a few chords, try some harder progressions, but always the common ones. Now, this is important. Don't jump in and grab, oh, this song has B flat and D minor and F in it. While they are really important chords, they're not as common as the keys of C, G, and D. So you want to be able to get C, G, A minor, and F is always trouble, right? But the easier F. You can play loads of songs with that F. So C, G, A minor, and F. There's a group of 4. Really, probably the most common of the whole lot. G, E minor, C, D. Get those 4 in different variations on D, A, B minor, G. That's thousands of songs, 3 keys. That's part of the Get Playing Accelerator program as well. That comes up later on. We'll talk a wee bit about that later. But okay. So it's important to choose your chords wisely when you're trying to get your chord changing down. Take your time with it and see what's going on. If you need some tips on why your chord changing isn't happening, feel free to get into the general chat in the group. I'll get back. Or send me a message on Messenger. If you're not part of the email newsletter and email group, get in there and I'll send an email out every week. Maybe now I'm going to be sending out an email maybe twice a week, some tips and some advice. If you're not on that email list, you're really losing out, because I'm sending through sometimes things that have happened in a weekly lesson that could really help you, because I'm always dealing with different things every week, and sometimes things come up and I think, God, that's really going to help everybody in the group if they knew what happened here in this lesson, that kind of thing. So strumming and timing, as I mentioned earlier, absolutely essential to get this down. Without question, rhythm affects timing, and without it, everything's a mess. Right? Rhythm comes into everything, playing riffs, melodies, solo, and fingerstyle. So if you think about it, both hands, well, your right hand in terms of rhythm suppose, is 80% of it. But there is obviously rhythm comes into the left hand, but it's the right hand that's driving everything. Or what we would say if you're left-handed, it's the other way around. Your strumming hand, we'll call it that. So this is another thing. I'm going to mention something here. I believe that anyone can fix their rhythm playing and timing issues. It's just a case of focus and working on the right things. So many times you get caught up in trying to be better players by perfecting the fretting hand, when in reality what makes you sound like an experienced guitarist is your rhythm hand, because that's what's keeping it all together. Unfortunately, this is something that beginners working on their own from YouTube, except to discover the hard way. Now, I have to be honest about this. This is true. There's so many things on YouTube that it's going to take far longer to even find the right thing that if you're lucky, that will suit what you're trying to deal with right now. After a long and painful struggle, and it can be, and that pain is in the form of frustration, overwhelm, and all kinds of things. You might even find some days you've got to put the guitar down, just walk away and come back again because you get that annoyed with it. So I basically want to save you a pile of time and tell you right now that this is priority. The rhythm hand is priority. So this here, is this true rhythm? Either you have it or you don't. That's, for want of a better word, bullshit. Sorry for cursing, but is this true? Everybody has rhythm. They just need to know how to tap into it. That's what I believe. I have yet to come across a student that I can't teach them to count 4 beats in a bar and eventually change chords. Everybody can do it. It's just a question of how much time you want to work on getting to that point as a starting point. Right? So, as I said here, I've yet to find someone that cannot count to 4 on time. The problem comes with fear and not being relaxed when practicing, or, as I said earlier, doing things too quick or picking the wrong chord changes. You have to have a plan in place that's at your level right now that you can handle, and don't be overdoing it and being full of overwhelm. Just take your time on it. So, for example, that chord change from a C to a D as a beginner is a massive chord change. For somebody playing along maybe 4 or 5 years, they wouldn't even think of it. But there was one at a stage where it was a difficult chord change for me. As I probably mentioned before, I struggled with D minor. And I always remember this because it's funny how things stand out. It's because it was in a song I wanted to do by a band called Smiths. And it probably at the time, thinking back, was way above where I should have been working on. But there was nobody to tell me this, so I didn't know any better. And I thought, oh, D minor, right? Why is this not coming through? Why can I not get this note? Nobody said, what's happening with your elbow? Where's your arm going? What are your fingers doing? Have you curled in the right way? What's the rhythm you're playing? What chord comes after it? What chord's before it? What's happening before you go into it? All these things. It's an endless list. These are all the things you need to think about that have an impact on what you're doing right now. And of course, at the time, looking back, D minor, that song, it was like just to play it, something like that, really fast. I can't remember what it was, but it was just too difficult. I should have been doing something a bit easier. So if I could go back and take my own advice, I'd be reading through this and working through some of this, but obviously we can't do that now. So if chord changing is an issue right now, then look at the chords, break them down to smaller chunks, which is another thing people don't think about doing. You only need 3 notes per chord for it to be a chord shape. Usually in a major chord, not getting into any too much theory, but the first, the third, and the fifth note. In a minor chord, the first, the flat third, and the fifth note. That's all you need to have a chord shape. So instead of a C minor, quick theory thing, that would be G minor bar, but that's also G minor. So that's 3 notes, and when you do the bar, we're just doubling up 2 or 3 of those notes to give a full sound. That's basically how chords are built. And as it says there, you don't need to be landing perfectly with all the fingers then strum. Just strum. Right? Keep the rhythm hand going. Thinking of anything else takes attention away from your rhythm hand. Give your rhythm hand 100% attention at all times. As I mentioned earlier about the engine, focus on the rhythm hand as the engine. Driving everything else, the fret hand always catches up eventually. Now here's a bit of a tip. So find what you already know how to play and apply rhythm to it. Now, what does that mean? That means basically find something that you know you're confident doing, say G to E minor, and put some rhythm in there, but keep the rhythm straightforward. If you can get that rhythm down on that chord change, then gradually bring it up in. I mentioned about ups, I think later on somewhere here, or I did mention it, but up strums knock everything off. It probably maybe is in here, is it? I don't know. But that's a big thing, just if it's not, that's something to think about. If you're doing a rhythm with too many up strums are a bit alien to the guitarist because they don't feel natural, where down strums do. So make sure your rhythm gradually brings in up strums, which again in the accelerator program, that's what I focused on when I was building it. You're building it up. I might go in and add actually a few, for the guys that are in there, I might go in and add a couple of lessons maybe in there on this, because this is really important. There is a new lesson. That's, by the way, if you're already in the program, there is a new lesson in there I added last week based on something that happened in a lesson, one of my private lessons. So you'll see it at the bottom of the rhythm and playing module. Anyway, just wanted to mention that now while I'm on here. Okay, so coordination, focus of both hands. This very much ties into what we were talking about a minute ago. Look at what the rhythm hand and fretting hand are actually doing in sequence together. Are your fingers too high? Notice this yesterday. A girl in a lesson yesterday was changing G to D. Fingers way up here instead of down here. So I said to her, did you notice that? She says, what? Now he says, your fingers are really high here. She says, all right, I didn't realize. Now he says, right, we're gonna bring your elbow in and keep those fingers low when you go to the D and see what happens. And she tried that. She says, oh yeah, I got there a lot quicker. Yeah, so something simple like that makes a big difference. That's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about economical chord changes. Sliding across the strings. If you're following me on Instagram, you might have seen a post this week where I did a post and I mentioned about these kind of tips. So very important. An economical chord change, as I call it, is thinking about all the things that come into place that make that chord change happen more quickly, which is fingers low. If it suits, sliding across the change, the strings, keeping a pivot finger in there. If there's 2 or 3 chords that have exactly the same note in it, like a G, 4-finger G has a D note on the B string, fret 2 into the D chord, that kind of thing. When playing a scale, I'm using the correct fingering. Likewise, in the back to this accelerator program, this is why I keep bringing it up, because all these things are in there. The spider exercise is about getting your fingers in the right order to help you with things later on. If you're not doing that and playing things the same way every time, you're not building muscle memory and you're not getting that repetition into things. It makes a big difference. See when anybody playing piano, if they come back to the piano every time playing the wrong fingers, because I play a bit and I have a habit of doing that, I notice it holds me up. So probably because I haven't focused enough on the piano and actually doing the right fingers as much. So it's just about thinking what's happening with what you're doing and making adjustments. Now, I have to admit, that's easy to say that, but if you don't know what these adjustments are that you should be making, then that's going to make it quite difficult. Now, I appreciate it. This is quite a long live. I hope it's not too long for you, but we'll have a lot to get through because this is so important. It's probably longer than any of the other lives. Okay, so number 5, start playing your favorite music. Right, so just to be 100% clear, I'm not saying not to play music up to this point. Obviously, you need to be playing music because you want to be motivated to keep going forward. So it's not a case of doing exercises. Excuse me, I would take a drink here. It's not a case of doing exercise after exercise. That's not going to motivate you. That's going to help. But you do need that music in mind and think, right, well, can I apply this to an easy song? You know, beginner song would be, depending on where you are, Knocking on Heaven's Door, Stand By Me, possibly Ed Sheeran, Perfect, but not something like Folsom Prison Blues, Johnny Cash, or Take It Easy, the Eagles, or things like that are way too fast. You want to strip it down. Not a lot of chord changes going on. 4-chord songs, fairly straightforward rhythms. Those are the kind of things if you're thinking of songs in mind. Some Bob Marley, even just off the top of my head, some Bob Marley's quite good. I just want to give you a few examples. Pink Floyd, Wish You Were Here, without all the fancy stuff, just the chords. It only has G minor, A minor, C, and D in it, basically. Okay, so at this stage, though, you'll want to have worked on everything mentioned above in order to be able to play a favorite music, not jumping around from point 1 to point 4 back to point 2. Things must be in a structured way, in an order, because it's that structure that leads on to all where we are now, point 5. So by covering the above, you'll have learned the essential skills needed to expand your songs, enjoy guitar a lot more, and be able to move on to other directions, musical styles, including finger picking, soloing, if you wanted to get into funk or something, or classical guitar or whatever it is. I mean, classical is very, very wrapped up in technique. They're very, very strict in classical guitar because the technique has to be right because of the style of music. So it really is no different in playing pop and rock. The discipline needs to be there to do the thing right. That's the way I look at it. A solid foundation and sense of skills sets you up for then adapting that knowledge and technical ability to play music. It basically is that straightforward. As we quickly go back before I go on, this takes us all back here again to the builder foundation. Step 2, the skills here are what lead you easily on to, well, not easily, but definitely on to play your favorite music, provided you don't do music that's too difficult. But once you get the skills down, you're in a position to handle everything that comes after that. Without all the skills, you're missing something. There's a bit of the puzzle, there's a bit of the jigsaw not there. You need to get these all in place. So we're going to go down here way past, just flick through that number 5. So that's why I put this in. If you imagine for a second the possibilities here, they're absolutely endless. Once you get to that step 5 and you are comfortable with your chords and comfortable with the fingers are doing the right thing, you've got your rhythm hand constantly moving, all this starts to come together and everything starts to glue and gel together, and then it's like, right, okay, now I'm getting into let's get on, get some good songs on the go here. Let's make them sound like songs where you get past disjointed chord changes and it's music now. It's not a bunch of chords, it's now music. That's the possibilities, and then you can take that further. You could bring some theory into this, maybe at this stage. Well, by the time you get to the end, if anybody, the guys that are watching this that are working through the accelerator program, by the time you get to the end of the program, you'll have covered the fretboard notes and that kind of thing. But if you were wanting to go on to soloing, there'd be a bit more theory would need added in. I am, by the way, planning out now. I've got a couple of the tabs done for the improvising section, modulate. That's going to be built out. This is what, middle of May. Well, between now and into the summer, I'll keep you updated on what's happening with that. But if for any of the guys that aren't in the accelerator program and your big goal and dream maybe is to get into soloing, definitely this is going to be for you, because this is going to set you up with a solid foundation in how to play lead guitar at the end. Now, it's not going to be a full lead guitar because it could go on forever. That's one massive program in itself, but it will be the foundation for you to get a good start. Okay, so I'm going to have to mention this, and I call it the elephant in the room, the art of non-practice. So this next section will probably be addressing the elephant in the room, so bear with me. So non-practice is the bigger killer of progress here. Now, it seems pretty obvious, but this can be the wrong attitude to progress. Now, unfortunately, I have to mention this, spending time on YouTube and Facebook groups and all this online stuff, searching for answers and not getting any. The search becomes your practice and not the actual practice and playing itself. What I mean is you're spending more time hunting for answers than actually working on fixing things. That's what the mistake that everybody, well, not everybody, but a lot of people these days are making. There's guys that would argue till the cows come home that YouTube is the best option. Yes, everybody's entitled to their opinion, but I'm sure if they sat down and they were really honest about it, they would know that they have missed out on stuff. And they've missed out on stuff because they haven't been taught properly. It's as simple as that. I can't really make it any clearer. Now, I'm saying here about making excuses. Please don't be offended by this. I know a lot of people do work long hours. I mean, I work long hours too. But excuses are easy to come by, and it's easy to make excuses not to practice and not to move forward. You know, I'm working loads right now. I can't get time. I don't think now is the right time for me. Well, if it's not the right time for you, there's never going to be a right time. There's no such thing as the right time. The only thing that there is the time right now to get started. Everything is hectic right now. I'm happy enough with what I'm doing. I'll keep it that first. I mean, I got to be honest, that last one's a real cop-out. I'm happy with what I'm doing. I'll keep it that. But where has that got you? if you're joining loads and loads and loads of Facebook groups and hunting up loads of YouTube videos, I keep it that you're working on isn't working for you. Otherwise, you wouldn't need all that. And my goal is that if you work with me, you're not going to need anything else. You're going to have what you need to do what you want to do with guitar and ukulele, by the way, if the guys are in the ukulele group watching this. So the above and loads more reasons are all 4 points, and I do get it. We all have busy lives. I have busy lives too. It's quite easy for me to lie up on the couch and jump onto TikTok and sit and before you know it, an hour's went past. But if I took 30 minutes of that hour, put the phone down, came into the room and worked on what I needed to work on, that's going to be far more beneficial to me in my life than sitting on TikTok watching some rubbish for half an hour that I'm not going to remember in an hour's time. You know, things like that. So the difference, though, that even 30 minutes of quality practice a week, you might be thinking, hang on, 30 minutes a week, what use is 30 minutes a week? Well, you will still remember, if it was quality practice, you will still remember what you did and the progress you made. If you say you're working Monday to Friday somewhere and you can't get access to guitar, whatever, you're only looking at it on a Sunday at 4 o'clock for 20 minutes. And you think, oh, what's the point of that? It's far better than doing nothing and the guitar sitting gathering dust. And if you're working with me, you'll be able to keep in touch with me and you'll get help there again. If you're on the email list, you'll get some tips there. If you're watching Instagram, you're watching my YouTube, you'll get tips there. So it's not just 20 minutes of practice. It's that plus something else at least. So the big thing is, well, this is it. I mean, it is about practice and it's about how you practice. And I think we can all admit that all of us could find 30 minutes in an entire week at some stage, if not more. It comes down to being honest. You either want it or you don't. If you only want it 30%, fine, you get 30% of progress. If you want it 100%, you'll put the time in and you'll practice what we're talking about and you'll do the right things. And hopefully if you're working with me, I'll help you do that. But I can guarantee you that if you put some time in, you will notice the difference if you're working on the right things. It's a matter of choice, though, as I say. So if you're wanting to go beyond these 30 minutes, I'm going to explain to you what is going on in the Get Playing Guitar method and the Get Playing Guitar Accelerator. For the guys that are already signed up, I hope you're enjoying it and I hope you're making progress. And if you're not, please let me know why you're not working on it. I want everybody to be working on this. If there's a reason you're finding that it's not helping, I also need to know that so I can go ahead and fix that. And I'm going to run through it here for the guys that aren't in it to explain. Right, so the practice pyramid previously had 3 steps: build a foundation, learn your sense of skills, play and improvise your favorite music. I think I've pretty much explained why they're important. Breaking it into a 3-step process takes away the overwhelm from thinking, oh my god, I have to learn my chords, I have to learn my scales, I have to do this, I have to work on my rhythm hand, I want to play a lead, I don't know any arpeggios, how am I going to do this, I can't finger pick. Crazy, that's just mental. I've took that all and done it all step by step, so you can just do this bit by bit and learn these things in order and hopefully enjoy learning them without any stress, which is the big thing. Okay, so as I say here, it simply makes the process much easier to manage. It gives you a clear plan of action to move forward in a structured step-by-step way. Maybe right now you're at a stage where you've realized you aren't making progress and you just had enough of it, or maybe very little progress. It is easier to fix than you think. It is easier. Everything can be fixed. It can be fixed. It's just a matter of getting some help and somebody to show you how to fix it. I don't want to leave you with a pile of questions wondering how do I sort this out. So you may not realize what is actually possible on the other side. I consider myself on the other side. Now nobody will ever master the guitar, but I do have it to a certain level. And I appreciate the fact that I can come in and pick it up, put anything on I've never heard before, provided it's not in some sort of weird tuning, and jam along to it. That's really a gift, and I really do appreciate that. And I believe that so many people should be benefiting from that and could be benefiting from it if they just invested in themselves. Because any money investment you're going to make in anything, especially the like of this, the possibilities on the other side will way outweigh any money investment you put into it, because it's something you're going to be experiencing that you've maybe wanted for a long time. So I'm not talking about money at the minute. I'm just talking about the possibilities. As I say, I believe everyone is tasked to be a great guitarist. But the other side of it is, if you're happy only getting by and putting up with that, it's of course your choice. Nobody can influence you in that. It's up to you. If you don't want it, there's not a problem. But the progress and where you're going to get to is probably going to end up a bit limited, if I was honest about it. But you do have an option. If you're interested in finding out what the option is, then comment action after this training, and I'll get in touch either in the chat, via email, or in Messenger. I do realize that in Messenger sometimes people don't maybe see the messages, or maybe they don't get through. I don't know. It's not the best way of getting in touch with people, but that's probably the most convenient. But you can reply if you're on the email list. You can easily reply action to the email that goes out every week as well, if you've watched this later in the week or something. So as I say, one thing I want to make clear, I'm not here to preach. I'm here to just simply guide you on what I feel is the best way forward. It really is getting a logical step-by-step method that you can work through that takes you on to the next thing at a stage where you should be going on to the next thing. And of course we want to bring music into it. And as I said before, the only downside of it for me is that I cannot put famous songs into it. But that doesn't mean you won't be playing famous songs. That doesn't mean I can't send you through tabs and suggest what songs suit and give you the best lyrics and whatever else I have here. But they can't physically be in it. So I'm being honest and upfront about it. But you will be playing and improvising your favorite music. And just by the way, because I want to say something about this improvise thing. It can cause confusion. By improvise, I don't mean being able to play crazy massive solos, because a lot of people confuse improvising with soloing. To me, improvising is having total fretboard freedom, hence the name of the mission statement in the group. So you can, if you're happy playing a bit of blues, that's improvising. It doesn't have to be, all fancy playing Slash and Jimmy Page and whatever else. It doesn't have to be that. Improvising is just having the knowledge of the fretboard and being able to use it the way you enjoy using it, whether you like playing bluegrass or blues or country or something like that. That's improvising. You're not just stuck with your chords and that's all you can do. So as I say, thanks very much for watching. I appreciate your time, because this has been quite a long one, but it's a big topic, and I wasn't going to just fly through it in 5 minutes because it's too important. If you have any questions after watching it, and thanks for bearing with me because that's nearly an hour. I didn't mean to be on that long, sorry. Do comment below. I'd love to have a conversation on this and be able to help you move forward, because I'm very passionate about practice and getting everybody on the right. It's becoming my life's mission. Get everybody on the right path. And I'm sure you must have some questions about what is the right path and how does this all work. So we could have a chat and I could explain more and get you on the right path, if we call it that, and get you moving forward as quickly as possible. So let me just check. We're still appreciate the guys that have hung with me here. Thank you. So we'll just wrap it up now, and I'll just say thanks very much for your time, and I hope you found this useful. And just to sum up, if you want a copy of you're new to the group or you haven't got a copy of the practice pyramid, comment pyramid below the training. If you do find now it's time to move forward, if you comment action under the training, I'll get in touch. We'll have a free, no obligation chat. I'll see what's causing problems now. Decide then if you would be a good fit for the program, because it really is, it's invitation only. And the only way to do that properly is to have a proper face-to-face chat on Zoom. I'll get a note of what's going on now and see if it is the right thing for you. It may not be, but if it is, then we can discuss how we could work together after that. Now, do bear in mind that, as I said earlier, if you're anyway into improvising, I'm building out the improvising module at the end. So you're not only going to fill in all the gaps, you're going to get a touch of soloing at the end of it all as well as fingerstyle, rhythm, and everything else. So there's loads you're going to get out of it. Right. Okay. Again, thanks very much for watching, and that's us for now, and I hope you've enjoyed it. And if you want to copy this document, by the way, if you comment practice down below, I'll have this all tweaked and fixed and ready to go, and I'll send you that over. I might give you hopefully some interesting bedtime reading, maybe. But yeah, you might find it really useful to have a copy of this. Okay, so thanks very much, and I'll see you again soon. I'll be chatting to you, I'm sure, in the group. Okay, bye.